it has this great sort of like ticking clock effect, just narratively, that you can instantly put the audience in and kind of understand that the urgency of the problem, right? That's the problem, or that's the task within the first 5 minutes of the film, is you need to introduce our characters, the core conflict, and the stakes of the situation. And here we have two lovers who are sort of in this codependent cycle. They have desperately got to get high. The boyfriend is like on the other side of town. His truck's breaking down. He can't get over there. And she's basically freaking out, saying like, I can't perform without my dope. And so he has to like run across town to get it to her, which then also does a very convenient thing, which you should also accomplish in the first 5 minutes of any film, which is like giving the audience a sense of setting in place.
Welcome. I've got Aaron Strand and Emily Marquet from the film Withdrawal on with me today. Welcome both to you.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
Great. Well, I really enjoyed watching the film. Thanks for joining me. So we're going to kind of take a deep dive into what it took to get this film in the can, get it edited, get it out in the world. I know Aaron has been writing some incredible articles about the process of getting the film out there. And what we have coming up in the near future is a July 9th Los Angeles premiere that's going to be at the Lumiere Theater. So if you're in the LA area, check it out. FilmJourn author and microcinema entrepreneur Jake Wiseman is going to be there introducing the film as well. So if you like FilmJourn, and if you're in the LA area, and if you love movies about heroin and addiction and all the inherent drama that comes from that, make sure you go check that out. So anyway, all right, enough about me. Aaron, why don't we let's get started with you. So tell us, where did Withdrawal come from? Like what got this, getting you into this film? When it comes to Withdrawal, what got you to bring this film into the world?
Which do exist, by the way. I've certainly met quite a few of them, and I get reached out to by quite a few of them. It's a subgenre with an audience. Not that the studios believe it to be so. I started off as an actor. I was a young actor. I went to NYU for drama school, which is actually where Emily and I met. We were both Stella Adler acting students in the late
Stella.
Yes, Stella, in the late 2000s. However, I went to college kind of already in full-blown opioid addiction. It was something that I picked up in high school. I went to high school in the South, in Athens, Georgia. It's kind of like peak pill mill era, where the accessibility of prescription opioids was just everywhere. And I thought they were really awesome, like many other Americans, unfortunately. And so by the time I got up to college, I was already like really, really struggling with this addiction. But I tried to keep it as a high functioning addict. And I actually had a really great start to my career. I started off acting in theater in New York, and I was like 19 years old, and I was already performing off Broadway, and then also still in school while also working at like the coolest nightclub in town, which gave me unfettered access to like any chemical that I wanted. And that all was like pretty awesome for a while, until it wasn't. And I lit everything on fire, ruined all those early career opportunities, and ended up a homeless junkie on the streets of New York. And that was terrible. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no real way to romanticize that. That just sucked. And so eventually I crawled back to my hometown of Athens, a place that I swore I would never come back to. But I went back there because I had nowhere else to go. And I ended up getting sober and having to really change everything about my life. And it was an incredibly humbling experience to go from, thinking that I was riding high, kind of like on the precipice of success. And now all of a sudden I was in Athens, Georgia, living back in not just my parents' house, but like my old high school bedroom. I got a job working at a grocery store. I mean, it was devastating. And so I clung to movies as a way to stay in touch with with the art world that I had fallen in love with so much. And movies were like really the only outlet that I had. And I began to play around with an old DSLR camera that my mom had. And one thing led to another. And my journey into filmmaking kind of moved hand in hand with this reset that I had to take in my life. And I had to learn a lot. I had already paid for one extremely expensive arts education, so I wasn't about to take out loans or, God forbid, ask my family to support me on a second one. So it was really a decade of kind of wandering the artistic desert and just self-teaching, learning everything I could about the process of filmmaking, of writing, storytelling, and how to do it. And ultimately at about it took about 10 years with many false starts and detours along the way that I ended up seizing upon this idea of withdrawal, which was inspired in part by my own experience, and seeing it as a way of completing this goal of shooting a extremely low budget feature film.
That's amazing to hear that level of detail and get that far into you. You were really down the rabbit hole. When you met him, Emily, were you aware of where he was in this sense, or was he keeping it under wraps? Like, what was your experience when you first met Aaron here?
I would say he was keeping it under wraps. I mean, Aaron, for me, he was like the brightest, one of the most brightest, charismatic people that I've ever met in my life, full stop. And I remember kind of like wandering the halls of Stella Adler, and he was always just sort of a torchbearer of like artistic truthfulness, and was a brilliant actor. So I think like I think he kept it under wraps for as well as he could for the part of college that we were together. And then when we parted ways, it sounds like things changed a bit. But yeah, he was always like this. He was always himself, like this bright being.
You're making me blush, Emily. You're making me blush. God.
So was he? Were you a film student at that time, or studying cinematography? What was your main focus when you were at NYU?
No, I was also an actor. We were
Oh,
both
you were.
actors. Yeah, turned from to behind the camera. Yeah, I was an actor, and similarly took like a 10-year journey to find myself to cinematography, with lots of detours and other trips along the way. But yeah, first studied acting, and then did a bunch of other things in my 20s, but eventually like started PAing and being on sets, and found cinematography during COVID, really, and have been working since then.
Great. And did you go to AFI more recently?
I
Is
did.
that
Yeah. I
great?
just completed it like about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I just finished at
Great.
AFI.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So what was that like after? So NYU obviously for acting versus AFI. Those are two of the top kind of film related schools. What was your AFI experience in a nutshell?
Yeah, I mean, AFI is a gauntlet. It's I like to say that it's almost like militarization of cinematographers. It's an excellent program. It was just like a really top-notch education, and I think being with some of those really bright minds like Bill Dill and Stephen Lighthill, having them as professors was just like invaluable. So I just came out of a prep meeting actually for another project that I'm working on, and I kept hearing myself saying in the meeting, like, okay, but what do we know? Which is very Bill Dill of me. Like, what do we know? What do we know from this shot so far? So it was really like an amazing opportunity and education, and really tough, really tough. I think I'm still sleeping it off a little bit, but I feel so grateful for that program.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. That's
Do you still have a little bit of the cinematographer's 1,000-yard stare here?
I know. I think I do.
that's
Yeah,
important.
that's like a
You got to
yeah,
be
yeah,
looking to the
it's
future as a DP, right?
yeah. But they say that after the first year of AFI, that the cinematographers have a 1,000-yard stare. That you get a little bit burnt out. It's kind of a little bit of a hazing to build you back up.
Gotcha. Well, I think it's good to get educated by people who actually do it, who have a career and aren't just teaching. Like I've been teaching for 22 years simultaneously while I built up my career as a DP. So it was always great to be able to like bring my students on set with me, or also simultaneously learn from my students as I was teaching them. So, you know, I feel like teaching's kept me young even as I get older and do more and more shoots. But I think with film or anything that's sort of like based in these sort of older style approaches to education, almost like the guild system of the Middle Ages, it's all about that concentrated training period. You know, you're an apprentice. You don't just start out as a master. Even if you're rich, you have to learn, you know, the proper techniques and everything. So, it sounds like a great program they have there at AFI.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it.
So I want to start with the opening of your film. It opens on Halloween. There's a concert that the lead is playing in, and she's also needs to get a fix. And I just thought that was a great metaphorical open for the film, because I kind of see these addiction, you know, kind of movies as monster movies in a sense. They have this horrific element oftentimes, and there's that sort of crossover of psychological attachment and all that. Like where in the writing process, when you were kind of trying to distill your experiences into a narrative, Aaron, what, like, did that come up naturally, or how did your sort of writing process occur to get the film into shape for shooting?
Yeah, for sure. I think from the very earliest drafts, and like keep in mind, the way we developed this film was that I cast the two lead actors, Millie Rose Evans and Brent Michael, when I only had a 10-page treatment. They were cast off that treatment, and we knew going in that we were going to have an intensive rehearsal process. Now, that treatment structurally, I was very confident on, and it's more or less the structure you see in the final film. However, there was no dialogue written. Not a line of dialogue was written. So the way we developed this kind of organically was that they would come over to my living room once or twice a week. I would send them like sides the night before. Sometimes there was an improvisational element to that. And that's how we sort of like built at least the dialogue and sort of the moment by moment reality of the characters was in a collaborative way, which was just a joyful experience, I think, for everyone involved. Now, specifically with that scene, what I always wanted was to drop the audience into a moment of chaos. Our lead character, Viv, she is a musician. Her artistic, the tension between her artistic aspirations and the pull of her more bourgeois family is sort of a core tension. You know, she's desperately seeking authenticity, and it's why she ends up using chemicals as sort of a shortcut to that feeling of authenticity, which I think is something that so many addicts and users can relate to. So she's a musician. The setting of the film is in Athens, Georgia, which is this historical great music town. And so I grew up as a kid, you know, going to all the open mics and all the club shows and all the whatever. So I wanted to drop people sort of just into that scene. It's a small scene. It's you know, not in the movie, but it's a small like music scene. You know, it's a tiny town of about 100,000 people. But incredibly, you know, active for being so small. And I wanted people to get that sense of both claustrophobia, the fact that it means so much to her to perform in front of like a 25-person open mic that she has to get high beforehand. But then also like, that's so tragic that she's got to shoot up before she goes on stage, which like was certainly the case for me. Definitely, you know, in the last couple of years there. And so, and plus it has this great sort of like ticking clock effect, you know, just narratively that you can instantly put the audience in and kind of understand that the urgency of the problem, right? That's the problem, or that's the task within the first 5 minutes of the film is you need to introduce our characters, the core conflict, and the stakes of the situation. And here we have two lovers who are sort of in this codependent cycle. They have desperately got to get high. The boyfriend is like on the other side of town. His truck's breaking down. He can't get over there. And she's basically freaking out saying like, I can't perform without without my, without my dope. And so he has to like run across town to get it to her, which then also does a very convenient thing, which you should also accomplish in the first 5 minutes of any film, which is like giving the audience a sense of setting and place. And so as he runs across this town and the little downtown, these were all the thoughts that went into constructing that scene. Now, the Halloween element was a late addition because we basically we shot this film in two different parts. This film utilizes a non-linear flashback structure. We shot those flashback scenes first, and then our production took like a 3-month break, and like Emily like went home, and like everybody like went back to their lives, and then we got back together 3 months later, and we just happened to schedule that second shoot during late October, early November of Halloween time. I was trying to time it for like perfect fall color, but like global warming kind of like screwed me over by like a week. So anyway, it's not like peak fall color, but it does have this byproduct of happening on Halloween. Athens has this amazing Halloween parade called the Wild Rumpus, and so we just kind of rolled that all in to this scene that was happening, and we shot live in the environment. I went to the city of Athens to their film office and was like, all right, like I want to shoot during the parade, like what permits do I need? And they were like, we don't even have our permitting together, so just don't block a sidewalk.
Perfect. That sounds great.
which was awesome. And and so we ended up just utilizing that. And I think the last thing I'll say about it, because I've been running my mouth for a little bit, is that yes, you're absolutely right. There's a monstrous element to heroine stories. I think the vampire stories are very equatable to heroine stories, but also just like the life of a average heavy opioid addict, with heroin, fentanyl, whatever. Like you feel this specter of death like hanging over you, and Halloween is like the night when the veil is thin between the living and the dead. And so this, I thought it also just lent a little effervescent vibe to that reality of these characters' experience.
Yes, I think you really got a good sense of sort of creating that panic as she's about to go on stage and feeling like she can't perform without enhancement. So for the main, you all shot this in a couple different like flashback formats, and so Emily, I'd like to ask you about like the main thrust of the film is a lot of very active handheld. How did you and Aaron sort of develop that handheld style throughout the film?
Yeah, it was from the initial pitch that Aaron gave me, which was basically to approach it like a Dogma 95 film. So one of our touch points, or two touch point films for us, were The Celebration, Thomas Vinterberg, and Breaking the Waves by Lars von Trier. And in watching those films, I saw that like these are very accomplished filmmakers who obviously know like the 180-degree roll, or know I mean, one of my favorite anecdotes was that I learned that Robbie Mueller, who's like one of my personal heroes, who shot Paris, Texas, and all of these like pieces of film that are considered so beautiful, he shot Breaking the Waves, and which is like comparatively, you might say like a cruddy looking film in comparison to them.
How dare you? How dare you?
Let's just say that the reds of Breaking the Waves are not the reds of Paris, Texas. And but when I learned that,
what an AFI insult. That was such an AFI dig.
When I learned that, I was completely freed, I think, of thinking about conventional framing. And one of Aaron's points from the original pitch was like, hey, we have this much in terms of resources. We don't want to, we want this to feel, this is an active choice how we're shooting this. We don't want this to feel like we are attempting something to look like a Hollywood budget movie, but we can't quite achieve that due to how much money we have. So we're choosing to buck against that. And yeah, when I saw Breaking the Waves, that was really like a freeing moment, and like you can be liberated from all of these rules and all of this AFI indoctrination what like quote unquote classic good cinema is supposed to look like. And then it was just about on set trying to be as free as possible and letting the camera and letting Viv and Jay kind of dictate where the camera needed to be. And I was nervous. I was very nervous. I hadn't shot anything of that scale before, and I was going to be going to AFI pretty soon. And I was like, well, what is everybody gonna think? They're gonna think that like I don't know how to like do the 180 rule. And but I realized I realized in the process of making it that like the liberation that you find in sort of like sticking to your guts and sticking to your intuition. And
just to add on that somewhat of a byproduct of these camcorders that we were shooting on, our A cam was a Sony FX1 from 2004. Is that but even when we were shooting on the cinema cameras for the flashbacks, we had a no monitor on set rule. So Emily was also like she was flying naked like the whole time without anyone looking over her shoulder.
I think that's great to like build up that trust first of all, and then just follow through with that. Because, too many people at the monitors, slow things down. Sometimes, it's good to be able to see what you're doing. But I really think if everyone's kind of dialed in and knows what they're doing, and you've built up that trust beforehand, there's no need to have a monitor. That's really just a crutch at many points, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very like sort of, I mean, that in that sense, it felt like we were being reminiscent of very classic Hollywood shooting on film where there weren't any monitors, and the actual sets were very trimmed down. It would be Aaron, the actors, myself, maybe sound, maybe one other person there, but for the most part, like it was a very intimate and quiet, fast-moving operation.
That's great. Yeah, the using different cameras for the different time eras, I think, is a great idea as well. So, and I liked some of those zoom kind of moments, like when they're trying to get some pills from the doctor. He starts hunching over, and you're zooming in on the nurse, kind of like taking a closer look at them. Those little moments, you don't see a lot of that in movies. So it really stands out in a good way. It like creates its own sort of visual grammar. And then when you go back to the kind of more beautifully traditionally shot, before they were addicts or before they were in their downward spiral flashbacks, I think that then again reassures the audience, in a sort of subtle way that you do know what you're doing. And I think the 180-degree line is overrated anyway, if you ask me. I think that's an archaic concept at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those original ones, they were shot on I had an Ursa, and then those Contact Zeiss that we mentioned before, which are beautiful lenses. So it gave it this very like creamy and nostalgic feel, which we were leaning into because like as Aaron said so beautifully, like the life of an addict is lived in these flashbacks. Then we wanted to kind of glorify the past a little bit. We wanted it to feel like feel that downward trajectory of how did we get here, so that every time that you cut in between the two, you could feel that that grit and that grime when you were like slammed back into the present. So thank you for calling that out.
You never want to make, at least my feeling as a filmmaker is that ideally you never want to make an aesthetic choice that's not rooted in the lived reality of the characters. We do not want to jump into a project with our primary goal being like switching aspect ratios and like multiple camera body types, right? Everything has to be supported from a place. I think when we initially talked, the whole thing was going to be shot like on just one style of mini DV cam. And those flashbacks and changing the cameras kind of came about organically as we sort of dug in deeper to like, what is the reality of the withdrawal experience? Again, like did not set out to make a flashback movie. Unfortunately, I just know from firsthand experience, the lived reality of withdrawing from heroin is curling up into a ball on the floor and going, oh God, how did I get here? And your brain is assaulted by this barrage of images and very subjective memories of how things were so much better in the past. And I'm such a piece of shit that I let myself get into this position. And if only I could go back, oh, it would all be so much better. Like that's just the reality of the experience. And so, these choices all emerged out of trying to just uphold that organic truth. And it's been cool to see. It's cool when people see it and they're like, oh, that was like a real risk you guys took narratively, which like means a lot. But I think at the time as we were doing it, we were consciously aware of the risk, but it felt we were very confident in like its justification in the story.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear people say that was such a risk, because at the time I remember we were like full send it, like we know what we're doing. We felt very aware and confident of those choices.
Well, first of all, I want to say, the classic paradigm is write what you know. So you obviously, I think part of the success of this film is that you truly knew this world. You weren't trying to go, what might get us into film festivals? Oh, I know a harrowing heroin addiction story, right? So it doesn't feel like that. Well, you should have been around. You should have made this in 2005 when I shot my first feature, which was a 1600s candlelit movie about, based on a Thomas Middleton play. And we got 92 rejections. And what was the movie that kept getting into every festival we were rejected by? It was called Cocaine Angel. So me and the director were just like, F that movie, Cocaine Angel. That's like, so hipster bullshit. So you missed your time, man.
Did we dig up some old resentments with our movie? No, okay, good. Okay, it's so funny that because I won't say who they are, but I've got my movies from like the 2025 festival circuit. It's like, damn it, so and so got into another one.
It's that natural competition we all have, right? You can't get rid of that. But I do want to compliment you on sort of making this movie without the kind of typical fetishization that goes on with a lot of these kind of, drug movies, where it's like you got the ECU super close-up shots of the needle and the I don't know. There's definitely some great shots in Drugstore Cowboy, which is probably my favorite movie about junkies, if I had to rank them. But I feel like I really like the sort of matter of factness that you two approached the coverage of those scenes where they were actively shooting up with.
Yeah, thanks. I think like it's this fine line I felt very responsible of walking, which is that like, yeah, I don't want to glamorize this. Like, it doesn't feel glamorous to me, even though there are definitely, there are like years of my life as in active addiction where it was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was fucking fun as shit. But that's not this story we were telling. The other side is that like, I did not want to make this a PSA, which like I would even, and this is just my personal feeling, is that, like I think that the back half of Drugstore Cowboy, like, kind of even maybe like tiptoes into like that territory a little bit. And the problem is narratively that drug addicts are incredibly boring. They make for bad drama. If the essential element of drama is humans undergoing some sense of internal change, or at the very least potentially their external circumstances change so greatly that their internal lack of change is poignantly, juxtaposed, but whatever. But it's like, essentially, it's about a character's internal change. Well, the core premise of a junkie is that their life is full of chaos. It can be full of sound and fury, but it signifies nothing because they don't change internally. And unfortunately, that boxes you into cliches around getting sober, around changing your life, what have you. And so, and I was very hesitant to I didn't want to mess that up, and I wanted to tell a story that I felt was like honest to the experience. The solution was by leaning full on into the love genre. This story operates as a love story between two people. The heroine and their addiction operates as the obstacle to the two characters. It is an antagonistic energy that both of them like put on like a hat, but then like can sometimes like take off, and in that way they are, you know, dual protagonists. But really, the question that hangs over every scene and holds the entire narrative together is simply: will they or won't they survive this ordeal as a couple? Will the relationship survive? And so, in that way, it kind of relieves you from answering the quote unquote drug question, or making that the key internal driver of the story. Now, this is not like some new invention. There's plenty of other examples in the subgenre that adhere to this. You know, most notably, probably the Panic in Needle Park by Jerry Schatzberg, fabulous movie that I'm a huge fan of, and also my personal favorite heroine movie of all time, which is Christian F. by Uli Edel, I believe is how you pronounce his name, German director. So yeah, that's how we kind of like tried to solve that narrative problem, and it was something that it's also the last thing I'll say on this is you've got to make it's very hard to make a drug experience actionable to actors. It's very easy for them to kind of get into like indulgence of like showing, you know, like their pain. We didn't want to do any of that. We didn't want to tell a story that was like a trauma-informed addiction story while subjecting our cast and crew to trauma. We did a lot of our focus on our production, and the way we try to organize things was making sure that everybody was safe, happy, having fun, and that the set was not some sort of dirge, because I felt like that would like seep into the story. So anyway, yes, we were very it helps the actors to play the love story, not the drug story. And I think it ultimately like helped the film as a whole.
Yeah, and for Emily, for you, from your perspective coming into this, where was your head at as you were kind of like sort of dropped into this living room that was a total mess, and these people's lives that are sort of coming apart at the seams? Like, what kind of preparation did you do? Did you watch any of these previous movies that had come out, or you know, what was your kind of build up in your prep for the film?
Yeah, I watched them all. I watched them all. But I would say that so Aaron and I, we went to college together, and then we met up in Washington, D.C., where Aaron had a job in, this was like maybe 2015, and he was very recently sober, or had been sober for maybe a year and 2 years.
Yeah, like a year and a half, maybe two.
Yeah. And we met, we had dinner, and he told me his story. And I was one of the first people from that like cohort of actors that Aaron like saw again, and then met up with again and told his story to. So I felt like just extremely honored to have been witness to Aaron's process and his healing. And then as we were both sort of pursuing film and I was pursuing cinema, we were like keeping in touch with each other and keeping tabs on each other and our projects. And when he approached me for this one, it was like the easiest yes of my life. And I just felt like it was about honoring Aaron and trying to be as truthful as possible to his story and what he was like showing us and sharing with us. So like I would say it wasn't shocking, it wasn't gratuitous or any of these things. It felt very impactful to like be there for Aaron and show up for him. And everything that he said about like making a fun set, making a safe set, that's all extremely true and sort of like a testament to Aaron's leadership. So yeah, it just felt like a huge honor, really, to be dropped into that living room full of trash.
But Emily was the perfect person to do this, because to hand someone a camera with this much freedom involved, and to have somebody who is not only an exceedingly talented cinematographer, but also an accomplished actor in her own right. And like, because this was a quote unquote like actor led production, but she's the third character in every single scene, moving around, as both a floating observer, and like having like she just has those, she intuitively she understands the choreography of the actors, pursuing their impulses within a real confined space. And I think that just, that bleeds into the work like so deeply. I mean, you really feel like you're there, and that's a testament to Emily.
Absolutely. No, it really comes across, so effectively. I think it's definitely good to have all these different life experiences when you're either shooting or directing films. When I started directing, I felt like my cinematography got better because I was thinking in a different way. And so I would also extrapolate that if I was an actor that then turned to directing or shooting, that could also, you can see things more from their perspective. Or now that I've worked with actors more, straightforwardly as a director, I think I'm a better DP for that as well.
Have you ever acted, Alan?
Yes, I'm going to release that movie pretty soon, actually. It's from
What?
1995 or 6. Uh, no, back in the 90s, I had a friend, and we made 4 features together on VHS. And if you think Mini DV has a rough look, oof, those
Yeah,
VHS,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
we edited them tape to tape and everything. So there's
Oh
only
my God.
one edit. But I've been working on a Substack article about backrooms and the VHS look and the fetishization of VHS in the 90s. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to include my own 90s VHS movie in this just to like compare and contrast. So
Mm.
we'll get to that.
Oh,
Mm.
hell yeah. That's awesome. We got to get you back in front of the camera. I think it's time. What is it,
30 years,
31
yeah.
years? Yeah, yeah. It's time to get
I
back.
did I did have a quick acting. I was an extra in when I was a gaffer. I did the station agent, and the DP got me in that movie as a cutaway. I'm teaching 2 kids how to fish, while Peter
Cute.
Dinklage and Cannavale talk on a park bench or something. So yeah, that's I haven't been pursuing it too hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's hard enough to be a DP in this world, let alone trying to act.
yeah, yeah.
So another sort of the sort of breaker scale things I wanted to touch on was this is in some ways one of these sort of single location movies. There's obviously a lot of different comings and goings through the flashbacks and everything, but the main drive of at least Act 2 and Act 3, they're in their house. It's an overnight movie. They're trying to kick the habit. And so as that portion of the film became clear to me, I'm watching it going like, oh man, are we going to be stuck in this house now for the last, 2 acts of the movie? And because there's so much movement in the first act, I was like, uh-oh, is this like now going to feel really confined? And am I going to feel like I'm stuck? And something I thought was really great was you guys have the power go out, and then so you have to go to these, that leads to these new looks. Like you had the ultraviolet look, and then you had the candlelight look. I wonder if you would, maybe Emily, you could talk about how you shot those, and sort of doing the lighting for the, candlelight versus the, I don't know if you had a infrared kind of filter on the camera, or how you approach those scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cameras we used were the FX1 and the FX 30, I think that's right. From that are the
We ended up
Sony
using a bunch of
DV.
those FX series. Yeah.
Yeah, the FX series. Yeah. Sony camcorders. And one of them had a night filter in it. And
Well, that one we actually switched over to digital 8 tape. It was this Sony TRV 820, which has like the OG night shot
Nice.
yeah.
switch. So that's all like in camera old Sony night shot.
So that was like a third sort of like fourth camera body that we had. That's right. Thank you for reminding me that. Yeah. And so that was just run and gun, like raw, no lights whatsoever. And again, just embracing that digital grain, embracing the imperfections, embracing how the light falls off. There's like a little bit of light that's emitted from the camera, and then how it falls off into the shadows, just letting that be. And then the candlelight, we tested, and actually the camcorders like performed so well with that candlelight that Aaron added some digital grain back in to the picture later to like muck it up even a little bit more.
No, don't tell him that. That was all Nadir. That was all Nadir's idea.
Yeah,
that was all Nadir's idea.
That
was our colorist.
It was a great idea. Our brilliant colorist. Yeah. But I mean, just trying to balance two different camera bodies that, even though they're within the same family, they have different grain structures and different things like that. So there was testing that happened and went on, and we trying to balance and find who performed better, and sort of finding that this one camera performed a little too cleanly, and that felt not quite the level of grit that we wanted, so reverting back to this other camera body. So yeah, all of those decisions were sort of going on and happening during prep and during that break, that hiatus that we took. Yeah, so but I'm glad that it sounds like it didn't feel like it got too stale or too like staccato being stuck in that house for you as a viewer. That's good.
Yeah, no, I think I've also shot a bunch of movies that were all in one location, so I know all the tricks you have to try to pull to like keep it visually stimulating, scene after scene. You don't get those cutaways necessarily. But I thought what I really liked about the night vision look was it was the perfect accompaniment when your actress is going. She looks so gaunt, and and her eyes have that like deer in the headlights glow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it really perfectly matched what I would imagine it could feel like in that like sort of moment of withdrawal. You're feeling like everything, your whole life is draining out of you. Like she looked like she felt is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, and also like you're like hitting the nail on the head. I mean, a lot of these choices, these were made, yes, they work organically with the story, but it's like, we've got to keep mixing up the visuals here. We have got to evolve this story visually. And I'm really proud of the fact that, I mean, all that candlelight stuff, except for maybe one tiny little light we hid in a sink somewhere, that was all shot with real candlelight, real candles. Those were our only practical light sources. Of course, this is also taking place in a house that's like filled to the brim with paper trash. So we had to like, in the corner of every shot was like stuff like, that was the one time when like the most crew was on set, because we had like 5 crew people with fire extinguishers like standing on the side of the frame at any given time in case a candle knocked over or whatever, but I was really proud of the fact that we knocked out all those candlelight scenes in a single day or a single night. And yeah, it was all real candlelight.
Emily, anything else you want to add in, like about had you studied any of the like candlelight painting or films that use that? Anything like that?
Yeah, I was aware of that, but I think I really tried to honestly like throw it out of my mind. Like, like this is not supposed to be Barry Lyndon.
Right.
And that would be a crazy comp to come in with, to be like, that's what this is supposed to look like. So, and I think honestly, if anything, I am guilty of sometimes like tweaking a little too much. I think it was
no,
during
as a DP,
as a DP, yeah. But I think during some of the candlelight scenes in the bedroom, I was starting to get a little finicky. I was starting to get a little like, oh, let's just move this over here, move this over here. And I remember Aaron saying to me like, hey, we gotta kind of speed it up here in between takes and in between shots. And that was a good reminder of like, to move the Barry Lyndon out of your mind, because it's really easy. I think it's really seductive to be presented with the challenge of like shooting all natural candlelight, and to like get almost these like illusions of grandeur in your head of like, wow, this is this is going to be so gorgeous, and then having to remind yourself of the truth of the situation and the truth of the story that you're trying to tell. So yeah, I had studied them and had studied sort of like the classical compositions and Caravaggio, and but I really tried to turn all of that off when we were shooting it.
And it shows. No, I'm just joking. No. I mean, that's the thing with the place we're in these days. Like I said earlier, the 180-degree rule is archaic. It still works, and it obviously, it has its place to help the audience understand where we're at. But you don't need it. People, you can be jumping the line, putting cameras wherever you want, and I often, get grief from camera operators who are very assiduously judging my line jumps, and I don't really care so much. I mean, it's sometimes there's times for it to care, but it just, especially in a movie about people getting off of heroin, I mean, it just is ridiculous. So let's see. We talked about the flashbacks, the idealized. I guess so. You did the candle lighting without lighting. Did you use like movie lighting at any points throughout the film, or is it generally like lamps, or what was your approach lighting wise?
We had 3 lights. We had the Amaran F-22C, and then we had 2 small Godox units that were maybe sort of like 650 watt equivalent. That was it. I mean, in terms of our movie lights. So those I would say mostly in the flashback sequences, it sort of there's a little bit more of a traditional like filmic look, quote unquote, and then the rest of the time I would say it's mostly practicals, and then those lights we just use to either just like bump up the ambience, or if we needed just a little bit more shape. But with the camcorders, it was I mean 80% practicals, I would say. So it was mostly about gathering bulbs for the practicals and having different things on hand to switch out, and like draping, like trying to lean into how would they be lighting their space. Like they don't want to, that moment when the overhead lights come on and they're like, turn these off, this isn't how they would want to see their space. So having sort of like a difference of fabrics and gauzy things that you kind of shape and put over things. Yeah, that was mostly the name of the game.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense for this kind of character, based movie. And also it gives you so much more freedom to kind of be able to point the camera wherever they go, or be able to move. You don't have to worry that corner's off limits. So it gives you a lot more freedom as a filmmaker, I think, to not have to worry about that. And, back to Kubrick, he was one of those people that really helped sort of popularize that by just putting the 500 watt ECT bulbs in the set, and not being so, or building his lighting into the set rather than having a lot of movie lights. So go Kubrick.
Yeah, go Kubrick always. Yeah.
He knew what he was doing on some level. So I think it's also just like I mean, certainly with those camcorders, like if you try to do like a real cinematic lighting setup, it just looks false. Like they cut through, that you can't suspend disbelief with those things. There is just something about them that cuts through the bullshit, and it actually like belies the fact that you're watching a movie. There was other little things that like, and keep in mind, like we shot this movie in 2023, so there was other things that sort of that I wanted to be really careful about, which is like I don't think we have a single like teal and orange sort of like binary palette, because it was just in my head, it was just like, oh god, that look it's gonna look so dated. Like we're already on the tail end of teal and orange. We're not allowed to shoot any teal and orange gels. And lo and behold, like it would have looked extremely dated. So yeah, me and Emily had a lot of conversations. I mean, and also like keep in mind, we yes, at times we threw this away on set, but we meticulously storyboarded every scene. a lot of long production meetings together. And so, yeah, it's a movie that should feel like a train, that's teetering on the track and like could fall over at any moment. That's the dramatic experience we want to give to the audience. But on set, we didn't have time for a train teetering off the track. We didn't have time for improv. We didn't have time for any of that stuff. We were at that point, we were pretty regimented, and we knew what we were after and hoped that the illusion of out of control would hold.
And then earlier you mentioned, but I forgot their name. Who was it that you worked with for the post, for the color and the grading and all that?
Yeah, so
Nadir.
Nadir Bassett, who was also our on-set gaffer. He was our colorist for the.
Oh, great. Yeah, so he was all in. He was like, I was there. He knew what he couldn't be complaining like, oh, how come you didn't give me this?
No. Well, no, he was thinking like, oh, finally I have a chance to salvage this shit that Aaron made me do.
Oh, that's good. I love people that wear multiple hats. I always wear multi hats myself on my own movies. So, that's part of the film process. It goes back to the old days where film crews were like a couple of people, right? It was like a film school kind of environment.
Totally. And I was the editor on the movie, so I edited it. And then our on-set sound recordist, Spencer, was our post-sound mixer as well. So we kept it all in the family throughout.
And let's shift gears and just talk about your rollout. So you've been touring with the film, and if anybody listening is on Substack, Broke, Sober, and NonDē is what Aaron writes under. And you've been, putting out a couple really great articles recently about the process and the highs and the lows of kind of bringing your film into the world. So what was the process of getting to that point where you're like, I'm going to start, getting this thing out there, like theater by theater, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was definitely an organic journey. It was not, this is my first feature film. I did not really know what to expect. I did not know what was required. I knew in an amorphous sense, but not in a personal sense of sort of the machinations and economics of independent and really like micro independent film distribution. So I started off like a lot of people sort of like, let's play the festival game. Like I believe in this project. Like let's see what gets out there. We did our world premiere at the Atlanta Film Festival, which was our home festival, and was honestly like a tremendous experience. We had a great world premiere. And we really have like it was kind of like the tale of two festivals, because like I can pitch you the success story, which is that, we played in festivals all over the world. Every festival where we were awards eligible, we took home like a major award from that festival. And these were not like scam festivals. These were like we were really happy. I was not expecting that kind of response, which is really, really, really cool. At the same time, for every award we got, I got even more like personal letters, personal emails from programmers at like top tier festivals writing about how much they loved the movie, but that like ultimately they couldn't find a spot. And like, and like the first two, it's like, oh, that's so nice that they took the time to do that. They didn't have to do that. They could have just sent the like stock rejection letter. Like that was really sweet. After you get like 13 of them, you're like, what the fuck is going on? This is such a fucking corrupt system. Like this is bullshit. And so after about 8-9 months, I was like, I think we've hit our ceiling here. And it's time to pivot. We need to reinvigorate the story, because it's also like, I was seeing the responses we were getting from audiences consistently. Like they were really, really positive. And if we don't get this film out there, nobody else is going to. We got our like handful of like, offensive predatory distribution offers. But I knew enough going in that we were not going to do any of that. So then it was it was just like, there was no other choice. We had to self-distribute this film. Now I do repertory screenings here across Northeast Georgia through my podcast Behind the Slate. So I'm already very much in the cycle of like promoting in-person screenings. I'm in the cinemas every month. I'm literally playing, I'm doing a presentation of Bob Fosse's Cabaret tonight in 4 hours. And so I'm in the cycle of like promotion, making posters, getting people excited to come to the cinema. So I wanted to roll those skills over into my own movie, and then also see if I could get some of that audience to cross over with me. And so that's kind of how it got started. We started off very successfully with because I have those relationships with these theaters here. We were able to do a week-long run at the Plaza Theater here in Atlanta, during which time we were the #1 new release in the theater for that week. And then we were able to do a week-long run at our independent cinema in Athens, where the film was shot. Again, #1 new release in that theater. So we had kind of like a good track record that we could then take out and start marketing. But then it's just the grind of like, at this point, I have personally contacted, we're approaching 400 independent cinemas across North America, United States, and Canada. We have booked or like are set to announce, I think in total, like we're getting close to like 22, 23 screening dates. And each one is like a curated individual event. Each one I try to bring on local community partners to get in contact with the local audience there. We still have like the extreme uphill battle of like, we are marketing a film that by and large nobody has ever heard of, and it's incredibly difficult. I mean, I have such humility and such respect for just how hard it is to sell a ticket, to get one butt into a seat, and I don't take it for granted. But it is a tremendous amount of work to try to market the film in that way. I have certainly learned a lot of skills in terms of like, how do you market a film both online and in real life, and the difficulties in transferring online interest over to in real life screening events. It's hard, y'all. And you're playing a game that has an incredibly stacked deck, because everything you see online that seems to be some sort of organic film movement, it's not. These things are paid for. These are marketing campaigns that are bought and paid for. The game is always changing. The goalposts are always moving, and that is just the reality of the sea that we are swimming in. And I get really frustrated by it. I'm not going to lie. At the same time, it's also really cool when things work. We just had some beautiful screenings out at the Frida in Santa Ana, which was like such a great theater. We were partnered with a local filmmaker down there named Lisette Mendoza. We were able to raise some money through our merch sales for her feature film that she's starting to get off the ground, and fundraising for. That's what I believe this NonDē community can really be about, in terms of like true mutual aid, not just like, yeah, I believe in mutual aid, but everyone like just subscribe to my Substack and you don't need to read like all these other losers. You know what I mean? Like, but like, how do we actually partner with and help each other get the next film made? We had an amazing screening at Philomoka in Philadelphia, which is such a cool, unique art space. And yeah, we're going to LA for our LA premiere at the Lumiere. That's the way that we're trying to roll out this film. And also at this point, the biggest thing that's working, and this is like the crazy, and like, I would still, there are very few, but there are still a few niche distributors that I would really like to get in contact. And what's crazy is that at this point, I get like 4 to 5 DMs a day from people asking to see the movie. And at this point, like, especially for those of them who are in Europe, and like, we have there's no possibility on the horizon that we're going out to Europe anytime soon. I can barely afford it. I've got 2 kids. Like, I can't take the time to go travel over there. It just is what it is. I'm just sending them a screener link for free, bro. Like, I'd rather they see the movie and that like interest and word of mouth keeps building, because everybody who sees this movie fucks with it. And that's the thing that like, I just try to stay true to. So yeah, I try to share all this stuff openly and honestly so that other filmmakers can benefit and determine whether this type of roadshow is right for them. I think that the in-person film experience is so beautiful. It's so worth it. But it's also like, it's not an easy path, particularly doing it like on your own. So yeah, it's an interesting times that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, for my film Stargazer, we had about a dozen festival screenings over the course of a year, and it's not easy, even with the film festivals providing the structure and everything. There's no way around it. I got to a point where I mostly just was applying to New York area film festivals, because I suddenly realized after a couple of flights and hotel rooms, I'm like, wait, I live in New York. I'm just gonna try try to keep it local just to save money, because it was really draining the bank account to be flying to a place, having a screening, and it's a difficult road to get your movie out there. But at the same time, I agree with you. Hearing an audience respond to the weird offbeat humor of my movie was like really satisfying, because I didn't, while I was cutting it, I thought it worked, but I wasn't sure. And you hear an audience and know that that doesn't lie.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and the thing you get to experience outside the festival experience is also like when that ticket split cashes and like you're able to offset some of your travel costs. Like that doesn't lie either. It's also nice, like once to be able to speak in terms that the moneyed side of this industry like only cares about, in terms of like what was your gross profit on a given screening or a given week. It's nice to begin to accumulate that data, and it's amazing how the interest that we have gotten from the tour so outweighs the interest we got like on the festival circuit.
No, that's great. The tour, I don't know. I feel like that's something that we need to keep building, and keep building these resources, because it is an uphill battle. And especially if your movie doesn't happen to have a celebrity in it, it's that much harder to build interest, or at least get marketing, or their natural marketing, in a sense, celebrities. But this film wouldn't work if I think if you had Ryan Gosling trying to, he did good in Half Nelson, but I think this works because of the cast, I think.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling would be wild. Yeah, no, we didn't just need unknown faces that now are blank slates for any audience member to imagine. I want audience members leaving this movie imagining like the next time they hear about like a halfway house or a harm reduction clinic opening up in their town, I want them seeing our characters' faces, as opposed to just like an actor that they know. But also more than anything, like I was dedicated to the rehearsal process, and I needed young, hungry actors who were willing to take the time to do that, who saw the benefit in that, who saw the joy and the pleasure in that. You don't get to do that when you're juggling not just like celebrity schedules, but also like SAG rehearsal rates, which make rehearsal essentially a non-starter.
Absolutely. And so I guess to wrap up, Emily, what's your next step? So you'll be there at the July 9th screening. And do you have any projects coming up for the summer or the fall that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so I'll be there July 9th, and then I'm currently prepping for a micro budget feature again in Atlanta, with some comrades that I met through Aaron. It's called Before We Were Monsters, and it's through the University of North Georgia Micro Feature Lab. So we're deep in prep for that. We're shooting in August, and then I got a couple other shorts and things going on, but excited to come back to the Atlanta scene and rekindle some of those crew relationships from before, and keep it going.
Excellent. That sounds great.
And that's fellow film stacker Hudson Phillips from Mirrorbox Films. That's the film he's producing. So it's very, very
great.
Cool.
Yeah, I love Hudson's Mirrorbox Substack. That's great.
Yeah.
Guacamole Yesterdays is a good film.
Yeah, totally.
Great. Well, thanks for joining me today, to both of you, and good luck getting this film out there in the world.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alan. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.